Now, I had an idea, and I think I mentioned this on a video before, that I was going to stop there and go, right, I'll just do half the book, and then I know it's a good book. And I'll be honest and say I've done half the book, so if you want the bit. But I'm so glad I carried on, because then you got the prepared mysteries, and I was thinking, oh, there's going to be so much glue in it. It's going to be like a Sans Minds thing and making of things, and I do quite like it, but I can't usually justify it for the effect. When he says prepared, it's not over prepared. I think in one trick there's a bit of sellotape, but it's mostly, there's a brilliant use of a breather crimp. There's a trick called triple whammy. Out of all of them, there's a couple I'm going to work on. Triple whammy is brilliant because it shows a card, it's a free triple selection routine, but just so fair. And there's a bit at the end where a card transport from one pack to the other, a bit like I said before, but just in the fairest way possible. It uses, and when I say prepared, we're talking at the most sort of, maybe, and I'm not in this routine, but in all of them, maybe a double backer, a breather crimp. So those sort of things that you can, if you've got, you can prepare within minutes. So it's not a major thing. There's a thing called the Twilight Zone Monty, I think. Something like that. It doesn't matter if I get it completely wrong, but that's really nice because it starts off as a 5-card Monty thing, a gambling thing, and then gets really surreal. And then blank cards are involved and backs change colour. So I like the fact that something that starts as a gambling routine then becomes something quite surreal and very, very magical. But my two favourites, I think, maybe in the whole book, and this is what I'm so glad I read on, there's a trick called Boxed Surprise. Now, I love a box routine. The card on the box, card in box, there's something really lovely about it. People like it because it uses that misdirection. It's a cliche, isn't it? But there's a couple of tricks in here that thing of it's worth the price of the book alone, and there are many tricks in here where it's worth the price of the book. I think this is one of them. This box surprise is it's kind of a mix between a multiple selection and a box trick. You're not going to do it with 20 people, but I think 5 people, and it just makes sense. There are so much lessons in this routine, in misdirection, in scripting. I said this about Harapan's book as well, in where you do this in that point, and also about Ian Moran's DVD. It just makes so much sense. It's packed such a punch, and there's a brilliant way of getting a card from inside the box, which is almost reminds me of a thing I learned in circus school, a clowning thing where you do that. My kids love that, or did, and but it works on the same principle and all that stuff. But sorry, God, it took me back then to '96. But it uses all these bits, and it's wonderful. And then I went on and learnt a trick, and it was like, thank you. I'm so glad I read magic books, because I saw Armando Lucero do a trick years ago when I was in Coimbra in Portugal. Before I was really a magician, I was working as a street performer, but he was there, and he did his Matrix routine, which is, oh my God, it's just stunning. Is it Menagerie? Or something like that. Did that, and that just completely blew me away. And then he did this trick with the jokers, getting closer and closer to a card, and I thought it was absolutely wonderful. He did it so well. And then I found Aaron Fisher's Search and Destroy trick, which is a similar thing, but worked with a card. And this is a similar thing as well. And I performed this trick to my daughter. And when I perform a trick to my daughter, I say, Gracie, can you just give us a hand? And she knows what's coming. She kind of goes, oh, God, in the nicest possible way, but she'll, here we go. And at the end, she was like, just before I did the revelation, she was like, no way. It's stunning. Somebody names any card, you put the joker's face up in a face down deck, they cut again, and the jokers get closer together, you do one of the cuts, and then you've got this bit at the end where you've got 2 face up jokers with 1 card. They've just named the card. It's amazing. It's going to take a little bit of work, not to actually do, but to know beforehand. But just brilliant. So that prepared mysteries bit, do not ignore that. Go ahead and read it, because you'll get some great stuff there. Next is this Pharaoh Slough Off chapter. What it does is provide you a way of you holding the deck out, not looking at it, them cutting a chunk of cards off of it, you turning around, still not looking at what they've cut, still not counting your cards, and doing one little thing in order to then cut a pack of cards which matches theirs exactly. And imagine that, because that's not without seeing them. Okay, you can just say, give them the cards, cut a bit off, give the cards back, and then you can do that. And in that itself is an amazingly cool thing. But then you've got these routines around that idea, which are really good. One of them's the weighing the cards thing. One of them's called Odyssey 3, which is a kind of, you do that, which is brilliant. And then you do a kind of magician in trouble thing with a kicker, and a bit like spectator cuts the ace. It kind of mixes all those into a really, really nice routine as well. And like I said, you've got a very quick weighing the cards thing, which isn't quite as strong as that, but works quicker and which still has a kicker at the end. And then you've got an any card at any number routine, which actually plays really, really fair. The way you get that number, it's not like someone just names a number, but they get it a certain way, but you justify it and it seems very, very fair. And the fact that you get the card at the number at the end is incredibly magical. Scripted Mysteries is as it sounds. It provides script for maybe longer tricks. The two I really like out of these are the Mask of the Red Death, which, you know, you take a trick with Elmsley Counts and Kings turning into spot cards, or the other way around, and with a kicker, and those are my favourite. I love those sort of tricks, those kind of packet tricks. Now this provides a really quite dark and effective script based on Edgar Allan Poe's Mask of the Red Death, which is genuinely quite creepy, and it gives it all a lot of meaning, and that's why I don't find that very often. I find a lot of those meaning bits sometimes a bit like, yeah, that's not providing meaning, that's actually just detracting from the magic. But this really does work, and there's a kind of Sam the Bellhop routine in there, which is slightly shorter than Sam the Bellhop, probably needs a little bit less prep, but he provides the script, the poem in there as well, which I think is really good fun, a good way to start looking at that sort of story deck. Then we've got this pure mathematics. Now this is where I really wasn't going to bother. I was like, I didn't really, you know, I can't add. If you say what's 2 plus 3 and I've got a load of audience in front of me, I start panicking. I do, it's awful. So it's not mathematics, you see. The tricks they call mathematic tricks are mathematics because the deck does the maths for you. But with most of these, you've just got to know a number, and you haven't got to subtract anything. So it's literally like there's two concepts in this which I love, and this chapter should have been called How to Fool Yourself, because I did it twice and I was just like, oh my god. And it is like you do these things and go, whoa, how did that happen? And you don't know how it happens. Like I've said before, it's like driving a car. I can drive the thing. You know, if I pop the hood and have a look under there, I haven't got a clue what's going on. So it's that same sort of thing. So in that way they are mathematical, but they do work themselves. There's this bottom to top principle, or top to bottom principle, which is just brilliant, and it is quite processy, but if you're a performer, you can use that. Because the process is, even as a process, it's very, very easy to remember. It's just repeating a process 3 times. That is quite short, actually, and you can do a lot with it. Might provide you with ideas in there. There's a Friends, there's 21, Invisible 21, I think it's called, by the way, in that, which I really recommend having a look at. But yeah, Invisible 21, which is a 21 card trick. Sounds boring when I say that, 21 card trick, but it works on a brilliant principle, and you'll just love doing it to friends and magicians. These are magicians foolers. There's a really, if you're into your theory or your essays, there's an essay just before I think the pure mathematics bit called 52, which is terrifying. That's all I'll say. The more I read it, the more I kind of got, it's terrifying in not the way that you'd think so, but I really creeped me out, which is good because you can use that. And what it is, it's a way of talking about how many permutations of a deck there are in 52 cards. We've got a friends section where there's 3 great routines. I'm not going to go into them because I want to focus more on Mike's stuff, but there's a really good Cameron Francis. These are only 3 routines in there from Alan Stratner, I think I've said that right, Cameron Francis, and Kevin Casaretto. I hope I've said that right, apologies if I haven't. But Mike's obviously only picked these 3, and they're really, really good. There's a really good Kings to Aces switch out thing in there, which I really enjoyed performing. So I told you it was going to be a long review, didn't I? So I'm gonna do everything in this. So the essays, the introduction and the essays are really, really interesting. The first essay is about this idea of a tesseract as a fourth dimension. So he talks about wormholes, and because Mike is a physicist. Easy for me to say. So he talks about the science of it, the science of this 4th dimension, which is genuinely interesting. But all I really like it as a metaphor, where there's the 4th dimension is the stuff we work at and that they don't see in a magic trick. And he links this to real science, to real physics later on in a completely mind-bending essay, which is after the pure mathematics bit, which is just great, and I really enjoyed it. And I've actually got as I was reading it, I got a bit of paper out and started drawing. I was thinking, I'm getting this. Then at the end, I went, no, I don't get it. But that's a good thing, because it means I've got something to ponder. But it does make sense. But it's really fascinating. So he talks about this idea of, and what he's talking about is empathy, is a wormhole. He talks about wormholes in science, and that wormhole has to be one way. So we have to be able to go through it and see what, as much as we can, about that audience member, about that participant, about that person watching our magic, about what they're going to experience. But we can't let them through that wormhole into our lives, because we're doing all this secret stuff. But we can. So he's saying it's kind of like a one-way thing, but it's a two-way thing. We've got to know what they're experiencing. And basically what he's saying is, in a really nice way, using physics, is that we have to really think about what they're experiencing with this magic. And that's what I love, because that's why I'm so enthusiastic about this book, because every single routine, I think, he's been through that thought process. Definitely read the essays in here. They're absolutely brilliant. Like I said, that 152 just melts me. It melts my mind. It's just completely destroyed. I got really freaked out by it. But I don't know, it's hitting a nerve there. Thanks. Which brings us on to this final chapter. And the final chapter is Miscellaneous Mysteries. Now, there's some brilliant coin stuff in here, but it all uses a gimmick that I haven't got. So I didn't get right into that. Again, you do look at it and it does kind of justify, you kind of go, I want to get one of them now to learn that. But that's fine. You know, this is a small chapter at the end of what you're guessing now, I think, is an incredible book. There is a non-gimmicked coin routine in there, which is great if you've not done an in the hands coins across. It's a really nice one. It's quite challenging. And for me, I already kind of do one. And so I nearly kind of went, oh, that'll do. But the last two routines, brilliant. One of them is based on a Max Maven idea with imaginary coins, which is really nice. It's really nice to have this when you're kind of out and about. You don't have to carry much. Well, it's imaginary coins. They're not actually there. But I really, really like it. And the last routine, what's it called? I'm about to have it here. Heisted 3.0. It's a routine that will fool the hell out of people and entertain people. It uses 5 people. You get 5 people on stage. You give them five cards each. You give them 5 cards each. They shuffle the cards. They look at at their deck, decide what one they want to keep. This is all without saying anything. They then put all the cards together, shuffle them together, and you work out what card they're thinking of. It's brilliant. And even though it's got process in it, it's not ultra process. I mean, it's a real showpiece, and I think he's put it at the end of this book for a reason. It's kind of a reward for for actually not being a person that buys books, sticks them on the shelf, and reads the first trick, like I have done with a lot of these books. And that's the reward, and it's something I would really look at. Even if you're not going to do it, it uses such a brilliant principle. So this book is, I think, a little bit like I said about Principia. It's a good book to go with that, because they're both physicists, they're both scientists. And because of that, there's a bit in the beginning, I think, by Johnny New York, is that what it's called? The intro, where he says, Johnny New York, where he says, Mike leaves no stone unturned. He really doesn't. It's like when you're reading these tricks and you've got the cards in your hand, you go, oh, I'm having a bit of trouble there. And then in the next paragraph, he'll say, you might have a bit of trouble there. So he's looking at it as a scientist, but as a scientist who is seeing who is kind of understanding what you as a magician would go through and what an audience member is going through. Is it challenging? The tricks are challenging, but they're not. There was nothing in it that made me go, oh, they are sleight of hand tricks. It's all double lift. There's lots of biddle stuff in there. So you're going to have to handle a deck of cards, but no better reason. Get this book and start working through it. There are a couple of routines that use a mem deck. One doesn't need a mem. Actually, you can do versions of both without a mem deck. So don't worry about that. If you don't do those routines and you haven't got a mem deck, I think both are reasons to learn it, to learn a memorized deck. And like I said, the stuff where it's talking about Preparation isn't loads of preparation. Great use of doubles in here. Lovely use of a breather crimp. And there's the move section I didn't mention because I didn't want to go into every move. But the moves have moves that you might have done before, but different takes on them. And there's a couple of moves in there, a couple of controls that are just brilliant. One of them does use a breather, which will fool the hell out of anybody. But all these moves are sort of threaded through the routines as well. I really, really, really recommend this book. I'm so glad. I thought, I saw the cover, great cover again, but something about it subconsciously didn't draw me to the material in the book. It's almost like I looked at the cover and made a decision based just on the outside of this. There's got to be a better way of saying that. But anyway, sorry. I know that brilliant. Well done for staying till the end. If you are a card person and you haven't got this book, I really suggest buying this book. I haven't read any of Mike's stuff. I'm going to get it, there's no doubt. He does have videos of all the moves in here as well that you can access through. Once you've got the book, you can watch him do the moves as well, which is so useful. So there is literally something here for every card person, from the self-workers. He's not scared of using a cross-cut force, crisscross force when he wants to. It's not moves for the sake of moves. Everything is just thought about. It's an education, this book, and I reckon you should buy it. So well done. It's been like half an hour. And most book reviews are going to be like that. And I'm not going to get as many views, but that doesn't matter, does it? If you like your books, I hope you've enjoyed it. Please comment if you're sort of thinking, Steve, that is too long, mate, we've got to sort it out. Then do tell me, do feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Or do you want me to go longer? Do you want me to go more in depth? Because I'm reading a few at the moment, and I am going to talk about them. So thanks very much. Please like, subscribe, please share. The links and everything will be down below. I think that's the right way. I always get the way wrong. Thanks for everybody that's been so supportive, and please check out cardmagiccourse.com. Have a great one. Cheers.